Hi, this is Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, and you're watching ACtv right here. Rubicon was the first major band I got in back in 1977. I would just graduated high school, got in a club band, was playing clubs 5 nights a week, and Jack Blades was in that band, and they had just lost their guitar player, who had just got married, and I think didn't want to go on the road, do the record deal thing, so they were looking for a guitar player. But since they were kind of a funk band, they wanted a rock edge guitar player to bridge the gap between funk and rock, because back then funk was huge and rock was huge, and we had a horn section, so we tried to bridge the gap. I went and auditioned. It was a great audition with Jack. I danced around the stage with him. He liked my energy. Next thing you know, I was in the band. It started off great. Packed up my Datsun pickup truck and drove down to LA and did my first record with Rubicon. And we had a hit single called I'm Gonna Take Care of Everything. And because of that single, they were able to get us on the Cal Jam 2, March 18th, 1978. Biggest day of my life. We drove down to Ontario Motor Speedway, stayed in the Holiday Inn, and they had a van come and pick us up. And every van that picked each band up, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, Hart, Dave Mason, Santana, it was just an amazing group of bands that day. Each band had their own van with their album cover pasted on the side. So it was very cool to see the Rubicon first record plastered on the side of a van. Now they took us from a van to a heliport. We all got in a helicopter, flew backstage to where the limos picked you up, back to our dressing rooms. And here I'm 19 years old. I'm flying high. There's 450,000 people there that day. Unbelievable crowd. The biggest crowd that I've ever seen. And we ended up playing later on in the day after Aerosmith as kind of closing out while people left. But a lot of people stayed, so I guess we only had maybe 250,000. But it was huge. The biggest day of my life. They filmed it. It was on a live double album, and it led us on to touring and another record. And then when that band broke up, that Jack and I stayed together, and Kelly Kagi had joined Rubicon at the very end, and that's when we started Ranger. Ranger morphed into Night Ranger and released our first record, Dawn Patrol. Rubicon was actually Jerry Martini from Sly and the Family Stone playing saxophone, and he was actually with us for a little while, but then we decided to go harder rock, and that's when we got Jeff Watson and Alan Fitzgerald in the band and became Ranger. Recorded our demos back in 1980, and we're trying to get a record deal for like 2 years, and in early 82, the middle of 82, the tragic death of Randy Rhoads in that plane crash pretty much stunned the whole world, you know, and me too, because I just saw him play just saw him play the Day in the Green in Oakland just a few months before that, and I was amazed. He was being touted as the next Eddie Van Halen, and sure enough, a couple weeks later, I got a call from Sharon to fly to New York to audition for the band, and that was quite a call, because basically I had no idea it was her on the phone when she called me, because she called me early on a Sunday morning after actually going out and gigging the night before and staying up kind of late. So in that morning call I got from Sharon, I didn't believe it was her, and I kind of razzled her. Who is this? Come on. She goes, no, it's Sharon Arden. She was Sharon Arden before Sharon Osbourne. And she said, well, let me put Ozzy on the phone. So she put Ozzy on the phone, and I heard Ozzy talking. And back in the 80s, they were on New York, you could hear the delay in the phone. It's a slight delay they had back then. I heard that delay. I went flush. I was shaking. I thought, this is the real deal. So Ozzy pretty much said, yeah, I'd like you to learn 18 songs. So I ended up learning about 4 or 5 of them in the 2 days I had to learn them, because they called me on Sunday and flew me out on Tuesday. And so I ended up hanging out with the band for 4 days in my room with a live cassette that Randy was on from a live show, and with a boombox and my guitar and a little amp. And for 4 days I learned all the material with a lot of help from Rudy Sarzo and Don Airy, and just, you know, things I wasn't sure about and what I should do. And that 5th night I did my first show, and that was Binghamton, New York, sold out, 8,000 people, and that was the second biggest day of my life.
Awesome.
I was very lucky. When I was 8 years old, the Beatles, the Stones, and, you know, the Animals, everybody was out and doing real well. Even the Monkees TV show was popular, and, you know, I just told my dad, I want to play guitar. So he told me, he said, I'll I'll get you, because my mom played keyboards and she sang and stuff, so she had a lot of music in her. And my dad said, I get you a guitar if you take lessons. So I ended up taking lessons for about a month or two, and I just didn't want to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. So a friend of my brother's came over and taught me a bunch of things, and I learned from that, and he taught me how to play a little bit of lead. And what I did is after learning those chords, I realized that every song on the radio were all the same chords, basically. You know, the 8 chords I learned, the basic chords. So I learned by sitting in my room with a radio, or going to my brother's room with his record player, and hours and hours just learning what I could. He was 7 years older than me, so he had Hendrix. He had, you know, first Santana record, Cheap Thrills. He had all of the Doors. He had all this great stuff that I got into, and I just learned and learned and got a little better in lead. And then when I had my first band when I was 10 years old, called the Invaders, and that morphed into different bands. And going through high school, when I joined high school, I got in a band with all seniors, and because I had been playing longer than anybody else at my high school, so I actually played the senior ball when I was a freshman, our band. So that was kind of cool back then, and you know, I just kept playing. And another good thing that happened to me was right out of high school, before I joined Rubicon, I played in a club band 5 nights a week, 4 sets a night, and that made me learn a lot, because we were playing all the funk tunes, we were playing the rock stuff, all the dance stuff. I learned how to play 9th chords and groove and chunk-a-chunk and get that funky groove rhythm going. That really helped me, because I was kind of a one-trick rock and roll pony back then, just playing rock chords. So I really learned how to be diverse as far as my styles and learning different things, because we played all the latest covers that came out. And so when I joined Rubicon, I had that funk background from playing in clubs for a year and a half before I joined the band. And there's a way to, you know, if you don't know how to float your bridge or put the right amount of strings or tension on the back, you should take it to your local guitar guy there to set you up if you want to get into the floating and really get the best use out of your big Vince nut saws to stay in tune. You know, I'll tell you one thing that happened when Night Ranger broke up in 1989. Jack joined the damn Yankees with Ted Nugent and Tommy Shaw, and which was kind of a heartbreak for the rest of the band members. But we'd been touring for 6 years straight. Everybody kind of wanted a break. I didn't mind it a bit. I had other projects I was doing. Built a studio and started going that route. But damn Yankees did all their damn Yankees tune. They do a couple Styx songs, Nugent songs, and Night Ranger songs. Well, they did You Can Still Rock in America. So I went and saw the damn Yankees do their first show up in Cotati, California, right before their release of their first record. And I went and saw the band. They were just great, and Ted was great and on fire. And after the show, went back and said hi to everybody. And Ted looked at me and said, "Brad, what are you doing tomorrow?" "Oh, Ted, I'm not going to go hunting." He says, "No, I want to see if you come up to Jack's and teach me that solo and You Can Still Rock in America." I was floored. I said, "Sure, Ted. But you don't need to show me Cat Scratch Fever. I already know it." Well, I started fiddling around with different things. And one was the whammy bar. And basically, I wanted to do something different, because there's so many hot guitar players out there. So I started working with the whammy bar. And Floyd Rose came out with a locking tremolo system, which I put on my original Strat, which is a 62 Strat that I played with Ozzy and Night Ranger. I did all my hits on this guitar, all my tours with this guitar. I got the original Floyd Rose, and I started fiddling around. And Eddie Van Halen came out, and he started doing dive bombs. And I thought, he's diving, so what can I do that's different? So I started pulling up. on harmonics, you know. Like the last note in Don't Tell Me You Love Me, it's a pull up and a big wiggle, you know. It's like, so I started pulling up on the bar and going crazy on it. Then I was fiddling around one day and I banged it against my body and it kind of made a sound. I went, it's shaking, right? I went, how's it doing that? And I went, wow, that's cool. So I incorporated that into the Don't Tell Me You Love Me solo also. You know? So I started incorporating my whammy bar stuff into it. And I kind of learned different things. You know, just different crazy stuff. And just started getting into it because I wanted my own style. I didn't want to sound like everybody else. You know, I'm really not a burner, per se, like some of the speed metal guys. But I play with more of a taste and a flavor, and I use my bar a lot. So as far as being an up-and-coming guitar player, you don't want to sound like everybody else. You don't want to sit and learn by the books everything and be copying everything exactly like everybody else is doing it. Take what you've learned and branch out, however it may be, to do things different. You know, I started fiddling with this. Just going down. Just different things, just to goof off and be different, you know. And, you know, different things. By using my metal pick. Now, I use a metal pick. And these picks, gives a great little tone by scratching my Dean Markley strings. So I incorporated all these tricks into my playing that may be tricks, and you may say, hey, they're just tricks. But when people hear them on the record, they know it's me. And that's my niche. And that's what people like about my style, or when they hear me on the radio, they know it's me. And that's a good feeling. Because a lot of times, you hear guitar players, and you're like, who is that? Sounds like so-and-so, so-and-so. So I wanted to create my own style. So whatever it may be, you know, come up with something, or just play around what you've learned, and take it to another level, or take it left field, and try to come up with something that could be your own original style. So when people hear that, they know it's you. You know, it could be whatever. It could be whatever, you know, but that sound or that style or the way you pick or you know, just, you know, whether it's your, whatever it may be, you know, to get your own little thing going, people will recognize that style. That's the way you get to jump out of the pack. Now, as far as my band Night Ranger, we've been back together since '96. Got back together and started touring again, and started out kind of slow and working it back up, and then we got back into doing the bigger venues. And right now, we're flying high. We're with William Morris Booking Agency and Doc McGee Management and VH1 Records, and we got a great combination. We have a new album we released last year called Hole in the Sun. Done stuff for Tiger Woods PlayStation, and had songs on Monday Night Football last year's season. That was a kick to hear my music on that.